Your call may be monitored or recorded. I have a prepaid call from
Simon Jacobson,
an inmate in Yellowstone County Jail. If you wish to accept this prepaid call, dial 0 now. Your call is being connected. Thank you.
Hello?
Simon, what's up, man?
How's it going?
It is going all right for me. How about for you?
Just trying to stay positive,
Yeah, it's got to be rough, man. It's got to be rough. So let's start with the big thing here. You find out they have till the 17th to announce whether or not they're going to pursue the death penalty against you. Is it somebody was saying they have till the end of the week. Do you know when you're going to find out whether or not they're going to go for the death penalty?
Yeah, they're going to make a decision by the end of the week.
Okay, so by the end of the week, for sure, you will know one way or the other whether you. And we got a letter from you. You want to not be put to death, correct?
Correct.
And so you would like to, are you accepting, do you understand that you're going to get, that the other option is like life in prison without parole?
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
So you're comfortable with the life in prison. Why do you think that you should spend life in prison and not the death penalty?
Well, the biggest thing, this is the biggest thing, man. I heard you guys talking about awareness this morning, and as far as things are going in the community of Billings, you guys see how, unfortunately, drugs and crime are an ever-evolving giant that, are touching everybody's lives, you know what I'm saying, in some form or fashion.
Yeah.
And, because of all these things that are happening in the community now, I think that people of the community need to be aware of it in a situation like myself and like my own, that the burden that's going to fall upon the taxpayers' back if they pursue something like the death penalty, isn't going to be any true justice for the family, of the alleged victim, and, especially for Montanans themselves, because, basically, I don't know if you've done your research yourself, but, millions of dollars go into a death penalty case. Right now I have 3 attorneys on my case, and if something like if they decide to pursue the death penalty, I get 4 more legal people on my legal team, and it's this big, long, 2-year drawn-out process that comes out of the paychecks of Montana taxpayers, and the average appeal process for a death penalty case is anywhere from 15 to 20 years.
Yeah, it takes. That's true, man. It takes forever and ever and ever to do a death penalty case. That is for sure. I personally don't think they're going to pursue it. I think they're going to go with life without the possibility of parole. The case down in Colorado with that shooter down there, that movie theater shooter, he tried to do a plea bargain and said if they didn't go for the death penalty, he would just plead guilty and spend life without parole. Is that something you would consider? If they didn't pursue the death penalty, would you be willing to just admit everything and spend the rest of your life in jail?
That's definitely something that I would definitely consider. Depending on how the case started to play itself out. So.
But that's the other thing I don't get to. Like you said, the alleged victim and like how the case starts to spell itself out and stuff. Like you already admitted to killing him. So how is it like alleged victim and how the case is going to play out? I think the case is going to play out that you admitted to being a murderer, a kidnapper, and a multiple robber. Like how else could it play out?
Well, that's just basically for the purpose of, my lawyers and people involved in this case aren't going to want me to say compromisable things on the phone just for the purpose of legal terms. You know what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
I gotta exercise some discretion on that. On how you speak about certain things. Especially if it's publicly relayed. So.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Like, how did you go from? A lot of people knew you forever and ever and ever, and I've known you since you were a kid, and said that you seemed like a pretty good kid. How did you go from being just like a normal Billings kid to, getting a little bit wrapped up into the crime scene to being able to take another human being's life? I mean, like, what was your evolution like? I mean, how did you go from normal kid with a loving family to the kind of guy that can kill somebody? Like, what happened to you?
Well, one thing, and I think that this is something that Montanans especially, in our community need to become aware of, is everybody knows that systems are flawed. Unfortunately, I wish that it was perfect, that we were dealing with perfect systems, but we're not. But, unfortunately, the correction system is it's one of those systems where there's definitely some room for improvement. I got in some trouble in 2001 and got put on probation, and in 2003 I ended up in the pre-release center, and I made some bad choices and took off from there, and I got a couple new felony charges, and I ended up in the Montana State Prison. Well, then I got there was a firearm in the vehicle, so they indicted me for the firearm in the vehicle, and so they tacked a federal sentence on the end of my state prison sentence. And so what ended up happening is, granted, the Montana State prison sentence, I mean, it was semi-rehabilitating, if you take advantage of it, and I kind of went out of my way to try to get involved in some positive things in there. And then when I got paroled to my federal time, I was 23 years old, and I got sent to one of the most dangerous United States penitentiaries in America.
Where'd they send you?
Victorville, USP.
Oh, wow.
Right outside of L.A. It's called Victimville. And so I went in there with a 3-year felon in possession of a firearm sentence, and was basically put in a wolf's den, with 65% of the population is people with life sentences. The other 30% is people who are facing at least 15 or are doing at least 15 to 20 years, and then there's this small percentage, 5% of inmates who are under a 5-year sentence. And unfortunately, I mean, in still respects to taking complete responsibility to my own decisions and choices, being in that element was anything but rehabilitating.
Yeah, I see that it didn't rehabilitate you, because, you're hanging out with the criminal element, and there's not necessarily any sort of, direct hands-on rehabilitation for you. But my question, just as a person, is, I can imagine if I made a mistake and I went to jail and, I was in a place like you're talking about where all these people are, getting life sentences and they're going to spend the rest of their life there. I know that if I got out of there, the first thing I would want to do is turn my crap around and never, ever go back there. How do you leave such a horrible lifestyle, come back to Billings, and just immediately jump back in with, let's start robbing people again?
Well, first of all, there's definitely nothing immediate about it. I got out, and I was definitely trying to diverse myself into something that I could use that experience for the positive. I spoke with several of the principals of the School District 2, Michelle Hanser at Billings Central, and I was trying to get involved in some mentorship programs, something to keep my mind busy and keep myself focused on, taking that experience that I went through and using it for a benefit and not letting my mind wander and get sidetracked and pulled back into any type of criminal element. And, I mean, as faulty as this sounds, unfortunately, in most of those situations, I was shot down. I was told by all the school district 2s that because of my convictions of my felony convictions, which were nonviolent at this point, I was told I couldn't have any access to any of the, not only during school programs, but after school programs that I was trying to be involved in. And same thing with the Billings Central. I was going to do some coaching and some mentoring there, and I even spoke personally with Shell Hanser, and he was,
they just shot it down
because of the things that are going on and because of the craziness in this world now. I understand where it comes from, but I mean, everything I tried to do, it was pretty much thwarted. And then, how time kind of went by, and I started to, feel the kind of the burdens and the weights of the world that normal people that live and pay taxes and live a normal lifestyle usually have adjusted to. And unfortunately, my adjustment to that was back into the negative and criminal lifestyle, and I didn't have anything really raw to grasp onto, and that's unfortunate because, the aftermath obviously is something that
is horrible. Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing too. Like, not just for you, but I mean, for your family. I mean, you've got a child, you've got a fiance, you've got people out there. I'm sure you've got other family that cares for you, and so yeah. I mean, it's not just rough for you going through what you're going through, but I mean, it's obviously got to be rough for your whole family too. And I mean, especially the fact that it was like, I mean, the person that, I mean, Mr. Laster, he's got some deep connections in the community and stuff, and I have a feeling, because of who was killed in this case, I have a feeling it's going to come back to, keep biting your, friends and family in the ass for years to come, unfortunately.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, that's, I mean, do you have anything to say to, to the Laster family or anybody from that side of the camp?
Well, I know that my attorneys would probably not want me to comment, on anything involved with that, you know what I'm saying, just until, because it's such a fresh case, and I'm sure, one thing I will say is that, I can only imagine that friends and family of Mr. Laster, what it's like to find out that, a family member was taken from you, regardless of what's going on with that family member and what kind of lifestyle they live, when somebody shows up on your doorstep to tell you that your family member's gone. I can imagine the sorrow that is, and my heart goes out to anybody that would have to deal with something like that.
Yeah,
because I mean, all of us can understand that no matter what kind of lifestyle we're living, even with me, if they do or don't decide the death penalty, my mother, and my father, and my aunts and my uncles that have nothing to do with the lifestyle I've lived still have to bear the burden of those choices.
That's a good point.
And so that's something. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I got one more point here. So your whole point is that you don't want the death penalty because you're an asset. You feel like you could provide more to the state and to the community alive than you could dead. What if the tables were turned and instead of DeJuan Laster being the guy that was kind of running in the wrong lifestyle ended up getting killed? What if the tables were turned and it was you that was killed? Like, do you think that you would look at it the same way and think, what? Like, if say Laster killed you instead, do you think that he should be allowed to live because of his resources he could provide to law enforcement, or do you think you, as somebody, on the other side of it, would want to see him dead?
Well, now we got to come back to the evolution of the things that we're dealing with in the community now. And here's the thing, Big J, that in a perfect world, the day that I'm sentenced, we could, let's just say I'm found guilty for some reason, and the day I'm sentenced, then they could sit down and they could make that decision, and it could be an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, like, back in the days in the 1920s and the 1930s when, you were found guilty for a crime and you were publicly hanged.
Yeah.
Obviously that's not the case. And so my biggest thing is, if the tables were turned, then, I'm one of those people who honestly feel like God is going to judge me. The state of Montana's decision on taking my life is really neither here nor there, because whatever choice they make in that, the bottom line is it's not going to happen when it should happen. It's not going to happen in the next year or two. It's going to be a long, drawn-out process that's going to economically drain Montanans and not do any benefit for the community. So my reaching out is strictly on the basis and fact that because of the way that the justice system is made to work, and because Montanans are still on the state of mind and the legal side of things that they are, and they
60
still do,
seconds remaining.
A long opportunity to draw this stuff out, it's not going to happen. There's not going to be true justice.
That's true. I agree with that too. And personally, Simon, I'm not for the death penalty myself. That's just, I think there's too much risk involved, so I'm against it. I don't think they're gonna pursue the death penalty in your case. Yeah. But do you think, I mean, your view when you look at the case?
Can I call right back?
Well, I got a roll too, actually. But do you think you're going to be found guilty? That's my only question. Do you think you're going to be found guilty, whether it's death penalty or not? Do you think you're going to be found guilty?
I don't know, man. Time will tell, man. You know?
Time will tell. Well, I feel you, brother, man. Hey, thanks for calling. I really appreciate you, reaching out and telling your side of the story, man. And we'll keep in touch with you and keep us updated.
All
right. Keep your head up, Simon. See you, man.
Yeah, sure.
The Big J Show. Weekday mornings from 6 till 10 on Billings' #1 hit music station, Hot 101.9.